Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha. Jaya Giri Vardadari.
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha. Jaya Girivardhari.
Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha. Jaya Giri Vardadari.
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha. Jaya Girivardhari.
Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha. Jaya Giri Vardadari.
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha. Jaya Girivardhari.
Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha. Jaya Giri Vardadari. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jayam Vishnupad Parivar. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa. Parivrajikacharya Ashtottara Satoshi Srimad Divine Grace. Aboy Charnar in the Bhaktivedanta Swami. Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagvatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagvatam, the 10th canto, entitled the Sanambonam. And we're on chapter 46. Uddhava visits Vrindavan. And we're starting on text number 2. However, there's no purport for text 2 or text 3. There is a purport for text 4. But before we recite Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, we should first of all offer our respectful obeisance unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto the Goddess of Learning, Mother Saraswati, and unto the author, Srila Vyasadeva. Narayanam namaskricha naram chaiva narottamam devam saraswatam vyasam tatojo udirayat. Shinvata Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridyantos Yabhadrani Vidunos Sudit Satam. Krishna, who is the super soul in the heart of the living entity, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who's developed an urge to hear his message, which in itself is virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nastapreshu avidareshu nityam bhagavat sevaya Bhagavatir Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular hearing and attending classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes completely destroyed, almost to nil. And loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is glorified with transcendental prayers, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, we'll just read the Sanskrit and translation for text 2 and 3, and then text 4, we can do it responsibly or responsively. Very close words, responsibly and responsively. Responsibly, actually do it both, responsibly and responsively. Do it with, do it responsibly, in other words, be responsible, and do it responsively, respond as we do it. Tamaha Bhagavan Prestam Bhaktam Ekantinam Kvachit Grititva Panina Panim Parpanarti Haro Hari. The Supreme Lord Hari, who relieves the distress of all who surrender to him, once took the hand of his fully devoted dearmost friend Uddhava and addressed him as follows. It's interesting here. Uddhava is addressed here as his dearmost friend. When in actuality, Uddhava was Lord Krishna's cousin. His father, Nanda Maharaj, his brother, was the father of, we heard yesterday, was the father of Uddhava. So they're actually cousins. And we also heard yesterday that they look very similar. Sometimes cousins, they have, they look very, very similar features. So this is the case with Krishna and Uddhava. They look very similar. One of the reasons that Uddhava was selected to go to Vrindavan, if we're going to hear why he was selected to go to Vrindavan and address the gopis and tell them, you know, I'm bringing you a message from Krishna. And Krishna was assuming that the gopis would feel very, very convinced and very happy about that because Uddhava looks like Krishna. And also the main reason is because Uddhava is very intelligent. When you have diplomatic relations, and this is a very diplomatic situation because the gopis, they're lamenting that Krishna is no longer present and they're in complete anxiety and distress of separation. So Uddhava is being deputed as a very intelligent emissary of Krishna to go and try to pacify the gopis. And we see in political affairs, you know, when one country and another country, there's some strain, then they send a very intelligent person as a representative of the government to go and have some dialogue and try to adjust the situation. And it takes great skill and ability to do that. In political terms, of course, you start with some, you know, you offer some praise. Then if that doesn't work, then you offer some gift, give and take. You offer some gift. If that doesn't take, then you offer some threat. And if that doesn't take, then you actually go to war. This is what Prahlad Maharaj was being taught in the Gurukul by the two teachers, Amark and Sananda, that this is, you know, you're a Kshatriya and this is what you should be learning in education. And so when Prahlad was asked by his father what he learned, he didn't say any of that. He said, I learned that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. And I'm just loosely paraphrasing. And that you should surrender unto him. Of course, this enraged Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad's father. But the point is that, you know, in diplomacy, there has to be, you know, there's a great deal of intelligence involved, how to be able to speak in such a way to gain some favor or to negotiate without causing a disturbance. So Uddhava was selected by Krishna to go and address the gopis in this way. And here it says that Krishna took the hand. He held Uddhava's hand, you know, and then he addressed him as follows. Shahadodava prajam somya pitror no pritim avaha gopi namad vyogadim mat sandeshar vimochaya. Lord Krishna said, Dear gentle Uddhava, go to Vraj and give pleasure to our parents and also relieve the gopis suffering in separation from me by giving them my message. And today's verse. Please repeat. Tamamanak, tamanmanashka trist prana. Mad arte tvakta daihikaha. Mameva daitam prestam. Atmanam manasa gataha. Yetakta loka dharmascha. Mad arte tan bibharm yaham. Tamammanakshka trist pranam. Mad arte tyakta dahikaha. Mameva dayitam pristam. Atmanam manasa gataha. Etakta loka dharmascha. Madarte tan biharmyaham. Taman manakshka trista prana. Madarte tyakta dahikaha. Mameva dayitam prastam. Atmanam manasa gataha. Ye tyakta lokadharmascha mad arte tan viharmyaham. Use the microphone. Madarte tyakta dahi kaha mam eva daitam prestam atmanam manasa kataha ye takta loka dharmascha madarte tan viharmyaham. Tamamaksha tristrana prana madarte tyakta dahi kaha mameva daitam prestam atmanam manasagataha ye takta loka dharmascha madarte tan viharm aham. Tan manakratris prana madarte tyakta dahika mameva daitam prestam atmanam manasagataha ye takya lokadharmascha madarte tan viharmyaham. Tan datamam bhaksha tristaprana madarte tyakta dahikaha mameva daitam prestam atmanam manasakataha ye tyakta lokadharmascha madarte tan viharmyaham. Anyone in Zoom land? I'm not sure if anyone's monitoring.
Yeah, Prabhu is not here today. I can do it. Taman manaska mat prana
Anma manakshatristrana
madarte tyakta daihika
madarte tyakta dahikaha
mame vadaitam preshtam atmanam manasagata
atmanam manasagataha
ye tyakta loka dharmascha
ye tyakta lokadharmascha
madarte tam bibharmyaham.
madarte tan viharmyaham.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else on Zoom that would like to recite? So maybe not. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay, word for word. Ta, they, the gopis. Mat, absorbed in me. Manaskaha, their minds. Mat, fixed upon me. Pranaha, their lives. Mat arte, for my sake. Tyakta, abandoning. Daihikaha, everything on the bodily platform. Mam, me. Eva, alone. Daitam, their beloved. Prestham, dearmost. Atmanam, self. Manasa gataha, understood. Yea, who, the gopis or anyone. Tyakta, giving up. Loka, this world. Dharmaha, religiosity. Cha, and. Mat arte, for my sake. Tan, them. Bibarmi, sustain. Aham, I. Translation and the purports by the empowered disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The minds of those gopis are always absorbed in me, and their very lives are ever devoted to me. For my sake, they have abandoned everything related to their bodies, renouncing ordinary happiness in this life, as well as religious duties necessary for such happiness in the next life. I alone am their dearmost beloved, and indeed their very self. I personally sustain such devotees who, for my sake, give up all worldly duties. So please repeat. The minds of those gopis are always absorbed in me, and their lives are ever devoted to me. For my sake, they have abandoned everything related to their bodies, renouncing ordinary happiness in this life, as well as religious duties necessary for such happiness in the next life. I alone am their dearmost beloved, and indeed their very self. I personally sustain such devotees who, for my sake, give up all worldly duties. It's different? Oh. How different? Oh, really? What about everyone else? But how many verses are in the not the translation? It's got the six lines in the Sanskrit? Huh. So yours is different also. Yours is the same as mine? You have the same? What are you using? Are you using the Veda base or? I'm using Pocket Veda. Okay. I'm using the Gita, what is it? Yeah, Gita base. Yeah. Okay. Different version. Okay, purport. Here the Lord explains why He wants to send a special message to the gopis. According to the Vaishnavacharyas, the word dahikaha, related to the body, refers to husbands, children, homes, and so on. The gopis love Krishna so intensely that they could think of nothing else. Since Krishna maintains ordinary devotees engaged in sadhana bhakti, devotional service and practice, He will certainly maintain the gopis, His most exalted devotees. Om Agyanatamananda Shajananjana Shalakaya Chaksharimilitanjina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. As born in the darkness of ignorance, my eyes are being opened by the torchlight of knowledge through the medium of my merciful spiritual master. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. And I offer my respectful obeisances unto all Vaishnav gurus of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at His lotus feet in this world. Our obeisances unto you, O servant of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. You are kindly spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout the Western world, which is filled with voidism and impersonalism. And I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees here in the temple room, all the devotees in Vaikuntha, in Zoom land, all the devotees everywhere. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyas cha, Vipasindipyeva cha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Devotees are just like the desire trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they're full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas, Adi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And my translation again. The minds of those gopis are always absorbed in me, and their very lives are ever devoted to me. For my sake, they have abandoned everything related to their bodies, renouncing ordinary happiness in this life, as well as religious duties necessary for such happiness in the next life. I alone am their dear beloved, and indeed their very self. I personally sustain such devotees who, for my sake, give up all worldly duties. Does this verse remind anyone of a verse in Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, I'd say 1866. Abandon all varieties of dharma, abandon all varieties of religion, and surrender unto me. Right, and that's exactly what the gopis are doing. All dharma, anything related to their body, the extension of their body. We take the body as the self, and therefore we think it's my body, when in actuality it's not really my body, but we identify with this body and we think this is my body, and therefore the direct expansions of this body is just an expansion of the same illusion. So my body, my wife, my children, my family, my relatives, it's all related to the misunderstanding of the body, right? My community, my city, my province, my country. It's said in the Srimad Bhagvatam that one who thinks the place of his birth is worshipable, he's got the mentality of an ass or a cow. They're not very intelligent because it's related to this temporary body. My country, my planet, my universe, goes on and on and on. And it's all from a misidentification. So the word that's used here that the acharyas are mentioning, daihikaha, related to the body, refers to everything related to the bodies. This idea. And so the gopis, they are, Krishna is informing Uddhava, he's explaining to Uddhava the situation of the gopis, that they've given everything up just for the sake of Krishna. They've given up, we heard earlier that when Krishna called the gopis in the dead of night, first of all, it's the dead of night. Nobody goes out, a chaste girl does not go out in the dead of night to be with a paramour, or what to speak, just going out at night. It's completely, completely taboo. It's mentioned that if a woman goes out and goes out for the night, then she's not marriable. She's not, this is the refined culture of Vedic culture. If a woman goes out and is out for the night, then no one will consider her marriable. Will consider. Probably all right. It's a man's world. I couldn't say. I'm just saying in regard to in relation to the gopis being the female. I know in today's culture, there's so much unity between men and women. That's and I'm not challenging that. I'm just speaking according to what's in Bhagavatam and what the purports of the acharyas are saying. So it said if a woman goes out, then she would not be considered suitable to marry, and yet okay. Do you have some reference to that?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you. You should use a microphone so others can hear.
Yeah, nobody can hear anything. Can you repeat it?
They can. Maybe you can just repeat my point.
Yeah.
But the point is, so the point is that the stronger point is that association with men addicted to exploiting.
Can you use a microphone, please?
Thank you. Yeah, Anita Ryan's point is well taken. That degraded men who are womanizers or woman mongers. Sometimes the term woman mongers are searching for women.
No, that's the word. We don't commonly use words like now.
So, yeah, and yet, despite that, that's the first, social. We're giving up all social etiquette just to be with Krishna. And I'd like to just, go back and go to the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm gonna read the verse that relates to this particular, that I consider relates to this particular verse, because it basically Krishna is saying the same thing. You give up everything, surrender to me completely, and I'll take care of you. I'll protect you. And that's exactly what Krishna is saying here in this verse about the gopis. They've given up everything, but they can be reassured that they'll be protected. And in the purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the purport mentions that certainly if one is engaged in sadhana bhakti, regulated devotional service and practice, and Krishna will take care. He'll maintain what we have and carry what we lack, and he takes care of the devotees. So what to speak of someone who is in a category completely surrendered and completely dependent on Krishna? There's two categories of devotees. There's the two categories of devotional sadhana bhakti. There's Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, which means regulated devotional service. We engage in regulated devotional service. And then there is Raganuga bhakti, sadhana bhakti. Raganuga means spontaneous. And spontaneous does not necessarily mean that we just do something spontaneously according to our own will or our own desire. Spontaneous means we're naturally attracted to devotional activities. We're naturally attracted to serving Krishna. This is a more elevated and exalted position. Raganuga, spontaneous devotional service. It's been divided by thoughtful persons that there's the progressive development of Krishna consciousness. Ado Shraddha. First, we have a little faith. Ado Shraddha. Sadhu Sangha. We associate with some devotees. By that association, then we take up the process, Bhajana Kriya. And then Bhajana Kriya is the application of devotional activities. which are in category. There's 9 practices of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smarnam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanam, Nivedam, the 9 processes of devotional service. And this falls under the category, for the most part, falls under the category of bhajana kriya, practicing devotional service. When one practices devotional service, then anartha nivritti, then the heart starts to get cleansed. And when the heart becomes cleansed, then there's a sense of nishta or ruchi. One starts to get a taste for devotional service. And all of this stages, they actually fall under the category of sadhana vaidhi bhakti, regulated devotional service. And then when one comes to the platform of ashaktis means attachment. When you're attached to devotional service, then you're coming to the spontaneous platform. And on the spontaneous platform, I was mentioning the 9 processes. Actually, there's only the 7 processes, but when you get to the spontaneous platform of devotional service, you come to the point of Atmanivedanam, surrendering everything and becoming a Krishna, becoming a friend of Krishna's. So the stage of the gopis is completely spontaneous. Anything reminds them of Krishna. Anything reminds them of Krishna. And not only the gopis, but Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda also. When Yashoda would see Krishna's shoes, it would remind her of Krishna. She was always in anxiety, wondering if Krishna was going to be safe. Especially, when Krishna was very young, all these demons that came, she was always in anxiety, and so the parents of Krishna were also in a point of being very anxious about Krishna. So Uddhava is being sent by Krishna to pacify Krishna's parents, Yashoda and Nanda, and also all the gopis. So this, abandoning everything, coming to the platform of the exalted devotees, certainly Krishna is going to take care of him, because he's taking care of the devotees who are just engaged in regulated devotional service. It's said that one should accept everything that's favorable for advancing in devotional service or in Krishna consciousness, and reject everything that's unfavorable. It's pretty clear, what's, for the most part, it's pretty clear what's advantageous and what's disadvantageous. And so the idea of surrendering to Krishna, completely surrendering, sarva dharma parityagya, is there in the attempt of sadhana bhakti, regulated devotional service, sadhana vaidhi bhakti, and even in spontaneous devotional service. And I'm just, like I said, I'm going to just read this verse. Sarva dharmam parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma suchaha. Sarva dharman, all varieties of religion. I won't do the word for word. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. And this, Srila Prabhupada has quoted this over almost 2,000 times in his lectures, in his purports, and other various places, over almost 2,000 times. In the purport, the Lord has described various kinds of knowledge. The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge and processes of religion, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Supersoul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of social life, knowledges of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. It's all in the Bhagavad Gita. He has described in so many ways different types of religion. Now, In summarizing Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. Of course,
Can
one
I ask a
may
question?
say, well, Krishna doesn't keep his word, so what's the value of the Lord personally promising to protect him?
Then why are we studying the other part
Yet
of the
he's
Gita?
promising that here. But we know from the Mahabharata that that Krishna broke his word. He broke his promise. But the connection between this devotee surrendering to him, he promises that he'll protect them, and breaking his word in the Mahabharata. When it was during the Battle of Kurukshetra, I think many of us know the pastime. During the Battle of the Kurukshetra, Krishna said, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to pick up a weapon. However, when Bhishma so aggressively fought to try to kill Arjuna, Arjuna was about to be killed by Bhishma. So Krishna intervened. He broke his word. But why did he break his word? He broke his word to protect his devotee. So this Krishna is saying to protect his devotee, he will protect his devotee. And this is an example of his keeping his word to protect his devotee at the expense of breaking his word of not entering into the fight. So that's something we can take reassurance from it, that if we actually surrender to Krishna, he's going to take care of us. And I think anyone that has come to that point of just depending on Krishna has that experience and realization. I know earlier in devotional life, remember Sridhar Swami said that, when we're new devotees, we're all pure devotees. We completely surrender to Krishna, completely surrender. We do it, completely everything, just do everything for Krishna. That's how it was. But then after some time, you start to become a little more, let's say, independent, and you're not as fully surrendered. But when you do fully surrender to Krishna, what is the 6 symptoms of surrender? Are you accept everything that's favorable for Krishna, you reject everything that's unfavorable. You have complete faith that Krishna will always maintain you and Krishna will always protect you. And the other one is you develop humility. You're always humble. I can't remember the 6th one, but these are the Sharanagati, the 6 points of Sharanagati. So having confidence that Krishna will always protect you and always maintain you, that's part of surrendering completely to Krishna. And as new devotees, we had that complete faith that Krishna is going to definitely protect us. Now, one may say, well, there are devotees that are seemingly completely surrendered to Krishna, and yet they have serious reverses in life. They may get sick. They may even give up their body. So where's Krishna's protection? Well, the real protection is at the end of one's life. Yam yam vapi smaram. Whatever one remembers at the time of life, that destination he'll go to. So this body we know is going to be deteriorating. Everything related to the body is going to be taken from us. So where's Krishna's protection? No, the real protection is that he protects the fact that we remain Krishna's devotee. At the time of death, we will think of Krishna. At the time of death, we're not aware, what our mind and what our consciousness will be. It's described that, when we have some anxious situation, I'm speaking generally, we have an anxious situation, we may not be able to think of Krishna. We start to think of the situation and not think of, well, where's Krishna? How is Krishna? Was he controlling it? We may not be able to because we're in anxiety about some temporary mundane situation.
You said when we're dying.
So at the time of death, the consciousness can get very perplexed. It's described how the body gets very hot or very cold. The living entity gives up the body. It can be a very it's probably could be one of the most traumatic experiences outside of birth itself. It's a very traumatic experience. And therefore, when one's in a traumatic situation, the tendency is forgetfulness. However, Krishna will protect the devotee, that you'll come to the devotee and you'll be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. Krishna can make an arrangement that he'll be in the presence of devotees when it comes time to leave his body. We've seen that many, many times also. You can see that the holy name will be chanted, or some other aspects that allow the devotee to depart in a good state of consciousness, to go back home, back to Godhead. So that's Krishna's real ultimate protection is how are we actually thinking of Krishna, and particularly the ultimate test at the time of giving up this body. And as a devotee, as we advance in Krishna consciousness, our external interests and needs become minimized. The gopis, are the perfect example. They weren't interested in anything social, anything material, nothing at all. And because they were just completely infatuated in Krishna, infatuated with Krishna, just had no other interest whatsoever. And that is not something that happens that's spontaneous. And like I said, that's not something that happens overnight. But we do see an example of this in mundane affairs. A young boy or a young girl, they're attracted to each other. It's kind of like it's spontaneous. The young girl's always thinking of the young boy. The young boy's always thinking of the young girl. I think most of us have had that kind of experience, or have had that kind of experience in life at one point, that you're just automatically attracted. You don't have to be told. You don't have to do anything of any external or any application to have that spontaneous attraction. However, if there is an attraction, then one should learn how to increase that attraction. And by increasing that attraction, how do you learn to increase that attraction? Is you learn what that particular person, what their likes, dislikes are, what their nature, what their activities are, and come in alignment with that. So we may not spontaneously be attracted to Krishna. We're not spontaneously attracted to Krishna. I can speak personally. However, if we undergo the process of becoming attracted to Krishna, it's given by the authorities how to develop your attraction to Krishna. And by the application of the process, then gradually you actually become more and more spontaneously attracted to Krishna. We see, I was going to make a point and it just evaded me. Well, the example, of course, I always use this example. Prabhupada uses the example of the diseased person who has jaundice. It's when someone has jaundice, the taste of sugar is not very sweet. They actually, it's bitter, but that same sugar is what cures the jaundice. So in the same way, we may not initially be attracted to Krishna, which is naturally sweet. That's our eternal constitution, is attraction to Krishna. But in the disease condition of avidya, of ignorance, taking the body to be the self, then the initial attraction to that which is naturally sweet may not be very appealing. However, if we take the sugar of engaging in the attractive activities of Krishna, then gradually that avidya, that ignorance, will be dissipated and will become attracted to Krishna spontaneously. Rupa Goswami says, he says, when I chant the holy name of Krishna, I wish I had millions of years, so that the sound of the holy name will enter into the ears. I wish I could, it's so sweet. I wish I had millions of ears, and I wish I had millions of tongues to chant the holy name. And then when I chant the holy name, it enters deep into the heart and conquers the mind, dances in the heart and conquers the mind. Of course, we may not necessarily have that attraction for Krishna, because Krishna's name and Krishna himself are non-different. But if we undergo the process, then gradually or rapidly, we develop a natural, spontaneous attraction for Krishna. So on the practice, this Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, the regulated devotional service, that we undergo certain rules and regulations on how to advance in Krishna consciousness. And on the spontaneous platform, we also see that devotees on the spontaneous platform, they also undergo rules and regulations. Srila Prabhupada certainly was on the spontaneous platform, but he practiced rules and regulations because yat acharishti shreshtas tat tat eva tarajana. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. So even the most exalted Vaishnavas who are completely on the Raganuga platform, spontaneous platform, they exercise rules and regulations so that others may see the example and follow that example. Otherwise, people would just develop a sentimental attitude towards devotional life. Most devotees develop a sentimental attraction to Krishna. Kanishta Adhikari. They're not that well versed. They're not that well versed in Shastra. They have some attraction to Krishna, but they don't have much knowledge, and their faith can be easily broken. However, one who develops vidya or knowledge, as well as undergoing the practice through hearing from the acharyas, then one goes from a mental platform to the next stage, which is, you could say, Madhya Adhikari, right? Kanishta Madhyama Adhikari. The Madhyama Adhikari is someone who has understanding of Krishna through philosophy, through knowledge, through Shastric reference, and his faith is not easily broken. This is a simple definition that Rupa Goswami gives in the Nectar of Instruction, the different levels of devotees. So if someone is setting an example, cannot demonstrate, let's say, ecstatic symptoms all the time, that will develop an attitude of sentiment, if you want to try to follow that. And we have examples of Srila Prabhupada himself who would hold back ecstatic symptoms. Devotees had witnessed that Prabhupada would go into ecstasy, chanting Jaya Radha Madhava. There's certain times when he did that and it just kind of voice faltered and was kind of like stunned into silence for a short time. We have examples of in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Murari Gupta, who was serving the Lord and offering arti to the Lord and was starting to develop ecstatic symptoms, but he checked the ecstatic symptoms because offering the service was more important than his own personal satisfaction of experiencing ecstatic symptoms. Prabhupada also said, work now, samadhi later. So engage in devotional activities under the guidance of the acharyas, and gradually we'll come to the point of giving up everything and only be interested in Krishna. And perhaps develop the spontaneous platform of devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I have a very pertinent question. Can you hear me? I have there's
Yes.
no sound.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, the
Prabhu,
neophyte
can you hear
devotees.
me?
Mataji, Radhika Mata, they're going to turn this on and
Mostly on
they're
the
turning
sound
it off
end.
because of the
Then
echo.
Madhyama, he's more
Oh,
knowledgeable.
okay.
He tries to give Krishna consciousness. And then the Uttama Adhikari is completely, he sees everybody's engaged in devotional service, and he himself is always in the nectar of instruction is mentioned. He's always trying to push forward and think how to promote Krishna consciousness and working towards that end.
Prabhu, I have a very serious question that has puzzled me since time immemorial. And you read it. Prabhupada says that Krishna says, you should give up everything I taught you before. Just surrender to me. Then why are we bothering studying Bhagavad Gita up to this verse? I don't understand it 1 minute.
That's a very good question. Did
Very
everybody
good
hear that
question. It's been with me for 50 years.
question?
It's a paradox and a bit of a joke.
We have to learn something in order to give up something. We have to learn. We have to learn about. You have to learn about Krishna, appreciate Krishna, the different aspects and different approaches to Krishna, and then when you come to a higher understanding, then you realize, well, that's not really relevant because Krishna is the irrelevant thing.
Give me an example. I have no idea what you're talking about. Give me an example.
I can't
Like
think of one.
Krishna
I'm sure you
wearing a
can.
yellow dhoti. Is that of relevance or no relevance?
I can't think of an example off the top of my head.
Then what on earth does this statement 1866 mean to you? If you can't even think of a simple example.
Well, it means, don't worry about karma yoga. Don't worry about jnana yoga. I've taught you those things, but don't worry about those things. Because
Then that's what I'm saying. Why study it then? Why bother reading it?
We learn there's different aspects of the absolute. Krishna is in the heart. Krishna is the Brahman. But then we advance further, and we get to the middle of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna starts to explain who he really is, and that actually he's controlling. He's the source of the Brahman. He's the source of the super soul. He's the source of all yogis. He's the best yogi. In the 6th chapter, he describes how to practice yoga, how to practice Dhanya yoga. You find a place, you sit quietly, you focus on you stop the incoming breath with the outcoming breath. You focus on the third eye, so to speak. And in this way, you advance in yoga, and everybody should be a yogi. But then he says at the end of that, he says, but the best yogi is one who surrenders unto me. So he's giving the direction on how to do these things. You can progress by doing these things, or you can just, rapidly go and see, yeah, that makes sense. But this is the ultimate thing that makes sense, just surrendering to Krishna.
Okay, so 1866, we'll start focusing there. I love it. Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you for your testy question.
Radhe.
I didn't finish the purport on the 18th, 1866, but there's a lot more, let's say, satisfying, convincing reasons to surrender to Krishna. I'm not gonna. We're at the end of class now. Anyone else? Anything else? Anyone else in Zoom land? I have to go and do a yajna this morning. So, right. We'll finish here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to all the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
You like having this here?
Hmm?
You like being able to see who's there?